Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Syntax English with me, Jessica. Today, we're going to be looking at some advanced IT phrases. We'll see if we have time. Maybe we'll cover some abbreviations that even fluent speakers sometimes misuse. If you're ready, let's dive in. Let's talk about orchestration. Now, in DevOps and cloud services, orchestration is to do with automating workflows. However, there is a slight difference between the two. In DevOps, when we talk about orchestration, we are talking about the whole life cycle of the software development project. Okay. From the beginning to the end of the project, and each step along the way on how we can automate these processes. So orchestration in DevOps, the whole life cycle of the software development project. However, cloud orchestration specifically automates management and provisioning of cloud resources across different platforms. So we are automating the processes across these different platforms. And this is the difference between automation in DevOps and automation in cloud services. Moving on, shift left testing. Shift left testing is an approach that emphasizes moving testing activities earlier in the development process. And this is done for multiple reasons. It could improve software quality. It could have a better test coverage. It allows for continuous feedback and a faster time to market. I know that there is a lot of debate about shift left testing because of the responsibilities of the developers versus the QA team. From my understanding, shift left testing is not about getting the developers to do the work. It is about getting the QA team involved earlier. Therefore, we are not shifting responsibility to the QA team, but allowing them to do their job earlier. And along with this, we are not moving the deadlines. The deadlines still remain the same. All right, moving on. Before we get into tech debt triage, let's first focus on tech debt or technical debt. Technical debt describes what happens when development teams take actions to expedite, to push the delivery of a project, which then later needs to be refactored. In other words, it is about prioritizing speedy delivery over perfect code. There's an example of this, which I'm sure you studied, but in the late 60s, the 1960s, all dates were written like this, as in 63. But this caused huge problems at the change of the millennium because obviously they meant 1963. Now, when we go into the new millennium, we're going to have dates such as 2063. And all of this needed to be solved. And it ended up costing a lot of money and it took a lot of time, which is why when you write a date, you are going to write it fully as in 2025 and not like that. Tech debt triage is the process of identifying and prioritizing technical debt. When we are doing tech debt triage, we are analyzing the metrics. We are reviewing the code and we are gathering input from our team. In order to be able to do good tech debt triage, we need to look at all 3 points because we don't want to try and fix everything. We want to be able to prioritize what is the most important. Let's move on and let's talk a little bit about idempotent. Idempotent is where repeated action does not change the outcome, meaning performing the operation multiple times, it will always come to the same result. It helps maintain consistency and predictability. It's always going to be the same. This term was first used in maths. For example, if we say x plus 0, it is always going to equal x. Whatever number we put in there, 10 plus 0 is going to equal, okay, I almost put 0 there. Or the other one is x equals 1. X is going to always equal 5, no matter what we try and change, no matter what we always do, it's always going to be 5. Imagine a situation where an API facilitates. Before we carry on, let's just talk very quickly about the word facilitates. Facilitates means to make an action easy. Coming back to our situation, the API facilitates between accounts. A person makes a request to transfer $100 from bank A to bank B. Bank A to bank B. This is a simple process. $100 goes from bank A to bank B. But maybe because of a latency issue or another factor, the request is duplicated. Without idempotency, the API is going to process both requests, meaning that person A is now going to send $200 instead of the 100 that he originally wanted to send. And this is why idempotent is very important in software development. All right, moving on. Blameless postmortem. A blameless postmortem is all about analyzing the things that have gone wrong, but without assigning any blame. Now, this is often easier said than done, but there are some steps that we can take to help in the process. Number 1, ask what happened and how can we improve? We really want to spend time focused on these 2 questions. The second point, team members are held accountable, but they are not responsible. The third point is to understand the real world conditions. Before updating any software, obviously things are done in tests, they're done in this perfect environment. Everything works in the test environment, therefore it should work in the real world. But this isn't always the case, and we need to understand those real world conditions. With that in mind, we also need to have a deeper look at the circumstances. Look at all these different circumstances, all these different situations. And the last point, probably the most important, is also to have complete transparency. Remember that this is not about blaming anyone, but it is about how can we make sure this doesn't happen in the future. That is it from my side. And if you enjoyed this, please hit the like and the subscribe button. As always, appreciated. And I will see you in the next.